Let's speak to Victor Teo now in Beijing. He's a political scientist at the University of Cambridge's Cold War Project. Okay, so Victor, there's a lot to try to decipher here from what came out of this conference. So first of all, in this resolution, there was an attempt to reframe parts of history, to correct the record of the Communist Party, but it appears that it could be an attempt to gloss over a violent period of time. What's your understanding?
Well, I think this is no different from any other large-scale political gathering in China. That's a certain way that the Chinese do this gathering. So, but like what you say, there are no surprises here. The wordings of the resolution that has been passed is actually not new. So, with the emphasis on a call for the party to rally or to unite with Xi Jinping at the core, and to strive and implement his vision set through to all the way through to 2049 in order to realize the great rejuvenation of the Chinese people. These are all words that have been associated with Xi Jinping. So again, the most important thing that came out of this this congregation of Chinese leadership, the 400 of them, is the removal of term limits that was approved actually in 2008 by the National People's Congress. So again, this is nothing new. The significance of this resolution or document really is, done solely to showcase Xi's undisputed power and dominance in Chinese domestic politics. So this is no different from what Mao Zedong did or what Deng Xiaoping did. So, there is great continuity in terms of how these things are done in this country.
Right. And oh, go ahead, Victor. Sorry.
Yes. One takeaway is that I think any discussions of a successor to Xi Jinping emerging to replace him or to change or people might be thinking that there should be a change in his vision or his agenda. These discussions will be deemed premature and unnecessary from this point onwards. So the key takeaway message for the Chinese people and foreign nations is this: Xi Jinping and his agenda is here to stay. And most China nations can expect the Chinese to be more focused on what he has been doing over the past 10 years or so under Xi Jinping's leadership. So there's not going to be much of a difference in what we expect of Xi.
Sure, sure. And what we often hear from analysts, especially former intelligence officials, is that the structure of the Communist Party is actually quite brittle. There are some deep divides, there are some disagreements. So what happened today? How much of this is real consensus among the party, and how much of this is just a show for the world that China's only getting stronger?
Well, the analysts are not wrong in the sense that China faces a host of problems that are particularly challenging. But remember, they are gathering here to celebrate the party's 100th anniversary, 100th birthday, so to speak. And they have been around for a century. And that's quite saying something. So we must not discount the achievements of this political party. After all, they have been around to fight first the Japanese and then the Chinese Civil War, the Korean War, or Vietnam War, and the Cold War. They have survived all this time, so we have to give them credit for lasting that long. I think one of the things that the meeting is trying to affirm is the leadership's concern with the growing inequalities in China. And I think for a lot of people, these growing inequalities of China that we have seen that has developed over the course of the past 4 decades since Deng Xiaoping, not 4 decades, since 1978 when Deng Xiaoping put in the new economic model, is the key thing that would divide Chinese society and possibly bring about the downfall of the Chinese Communist Party if they're not careful. So Deng Xiaoping knew that the kind of politics that Mao Zedong was practicing during the Cultural Revolution was unsustainable because people had difficulties in terms of putting bread on the table.
Right.
In this respect, Xi Jinping is also tackling the same sort of problem, but at a different level. Just look at the runaway housing prices. the kind of difficulties that these have for the common people is something that the central leadership is really worried about. So, amongst all the host of other associate problems, corruption, developmental costs to the environment, the prevailing ethics and ethical problems and other ills associated with, what they see as advanced capitalistic development. So here we have a leader that is trying to rein in all these problems
Yeah.
in the Chinese society, and it's refreshing because this time it's a true blue communist who is actually trying to do it. So in that respect, this is where things get really interesting.
So does this mean absolutely a third term for Xi Jinping, or does this mean absolutely he's leader for life?
Well, I think you have to ask him about that. But what we can say that the removal of term limits certainly provides us with outside of China, for Asians at least, a certain sense of relief because we can be sure that there is going to be a measure of continuity from what we can expect from China. We in Asia, we like China to be stable.
Right.
We like China to do more things for the region economically, and if possible, provide more international public goods. What do I mean by this? So the COVID vaccine, the Sinovac is a start. I know there are discussions of whether Sinovac work or don't work, or whether they work as well as Pfizer or Moderna. But still, it's something that the Chinese are doing for the region. We also hope that the Chinese can help the region recover economically. But at the same time, there could be things that the Chinese could have done better, particularly sort of things like climate change cooperation with the United States is one area. There are other things that the Chinese could do better. Human rights within the borders, within the Chinese borders, of course, because they can set example for their group of friends, North Korea, Myanmar, Pakistan, so to speak. But they could also be more sensitive to their Asian neighbors, particularly China, Japan, and South Korea. So, but all in, I think most Asian countries are comfortable with Xi Jinping as the leader because, it does not mean that just because you have a new leader, there will be more positive things to come about. Just think of United States before and after Donald Trump.
Yeah, and we sometimes hear from analysts that they feel that Xi has overplayed his hand in certain ways, foreign policy, but here's the party today saying, absolutely, he is our man. He's here to stay, at least for now. But Victor, we need to go, but it's always great talking to you. Thanks for your insights.
Thank you so much.